right. Hello. Welcome. For those of you who have seen me before, this is a different spot for me. So forgive the sun. I've tried to cover it with my curtain as much as possible, but Florida persists this Christmas season. All right. So let's get started. My name is Rainier McCall. Some of you may have known me before as Rachel. So name changes actually just hit a year 2 days ago. So yes. All right. I am a licensed mental health counselor in Florida. I specialize in quite a couple of things. However, a big portion of that is my time working with those in the adult industry, as well as all different types of people that have survived a variety of different things in the world of trauma. Work with a lot of people with dissociation, PID, um, a lot of things in the neurodivergent realm, ADHD, autism, ADHD, OCD, many things beyond that. Uh, so those are some of my specialties. I also am an EMDR therapist and consultant, so trying to work on becoming a trainer as time allows, and board certified in telemental health. So, yep, and qualified supervisor for those seeking licensure as a mental health counselor. So that's me. Those are just some of my credentials, but I've been working with Pineapple since around 2018, I believe. So I'm excited to be here today. So I'm going to stop ranting about all that, and we're going to get into our topic that I think is, not to sound repetitive, topical. Um, I mean, you could be watching this at any time, and it may be topical for you at that time. But for as this is being live recorded in December 2024, holidays, right? So we're actually, at least right now, about a week from that. Alrighty. So we'll go ahead and begin. All right, so what is our agenda today? Just kind of a general introduction. That's what we'll start with about loneliness, understanding that. I'll probably spend some time talking about perceptions of that, of the importance of the topic for those who are introverts, extroverts, ambiverts, could care to be around people, could care less, couldn't care less, and everyone in between. Just some general exploration of really everything around this topic, uh, how it happens, why it happens, what we can do, what makes us a little more at risk for it. And then we're going to get into some practical tips. Um, and then forgive me because I was going to do this live. There won't be a traditional Q&A, although you're very much welcome to send me an email or perhaps make a YouTube comment. I usually don't check the page, but you are welcome to send it on over. So folks at Pineapple can get quickly in touch with me. So let's begin. All right. What is isolation? Loneliness, being alone, references. Okay. Isolation. A lot of times that word is used, and it is very different from loneliness, which we'll get into all the different types of loneliness. Loneliness is a general, man, I'm lonely. It'd be nice to have something. And when we get into the 7 types, you'll see what those somethings or something could be. Um, it can happen when, we've just been really busy and not had a lot of social time with loved ones. It can happen when we've just been really, really overwhelmed, kind of down. The house, life, pets, relationship is caught up with us. There's a variety of reasons. Sometimes it is also lifestyle, right? Where we just, depending on where we live, how we live, we're not really getting to see people as much as we would. Um, This is very common for people that live in sometimes really big cities, really big buildings in big cities, as opposed to sometimes folks in more suburban areas where that might be different, may know their neighbors, um, as opposed to rural areas as well, where some rural areas are really tight knit and some are very, very spread out, um, things like that. Now, isolation is really quite a bit more further down the spectrum from loneliness. Isolation can pair up with despair, hopelessness. This is kind of a feeling of, I have not communicated with anyone of value, or even been around people in quite a long time. I've heard people even say, I don't even feel like I know how to talk to somebody anymore. I haven't heard my own voice in days, weeks, hopefully not months, but it does happen. I haven't had a solid conversation. And merely just having stuff in passing, like, yeah, well, I went to the grocery store, nodded at the cashier. For some, that can be enough. For most, that is not. So we'll get into some things about preferences. Um, Being alone is also different than loneliness and isolation. I would say being alone, how I meant it, is more, I'm having a day or two or here and there where I'm actually physically alone in my home, and usually a partner or roommate is here. Generally, my life is well socialized, but I am alone and it feels odd, awkward, enjoyable, not enjoyable. Again, that's where the preferences come in. Um, so a lot of things are more like a circle than a spectrum, but for the ease of discussing this, we'll kind of use the spectrum methodology here. Okay. So before we get into preferences and common feelings, I know I'm kind of jumping ahead on the slide, we're going to get into these 7 types of loneliness that have been socially identified. So there is new situation loneliness. You've moved to a new place, um, maybe a new school, job. Essentially, you're just not familiar and have mastery of where you are, which that can be really hard because even if we're not somebody who thinks that we love routines, most of us kind of need some foundational structure to feel like a sense of competency, support, and understanding. So when we're trapped into a new place, we have a lot of things to adjust to. People getting to see us and know us. Then there's all the other stuff, right? Getting to know personality, sense of humor, back and forth. What's the culture here? Is this a place where people can kind of rib at each other and have fun? Is it a very serious place? Um, is it kind of an unfriendly place? Is everyone, really deep into their own stuff? And this is not a very social environment. We don't know when we get a little antsy, so it can be lonely. This one can be really big, which is I'm different. You're totally, or maybe not totally, but generally at ease in your environment. You know it, you've been there, but you don't really feel like you fit in. If you can't find something that's really a strong part of you and an important part of your life, you can't find a support option for that. Um, that can be really tough. Maybe it's a place of faith. Maybe it's volunteering, some with a political leaning or advocacy leaning. Maybe it's a orientation, identity community. Maybe it's a ethnicity background. and you just kind of feel like you stick out like a sore thumb, or there doesn't seem to be a home base for you to communicate with other similar people. That can be really isolating. Even with other stuff that may not be identity focused, but like, if you move to a town and everyone loves, I don't know where this goes on, but snowboarding or something, or pickleball, and you're like, I really couldn't care about that at all. It's not a issue, as in like I have a problem with people that do this, or I won't try it, or I hate it, but just you're not immersed, so you kind of feel like you stick out. Right. There can be the loneliness of feeling generally well supported socially, um, but you'd really like the attachment of a partner. Maybe you've been seeking for some time. Maybe you've been in the dating pool, which I've often heard many people say that feels fairly laborious and tiring to be in the dating pool, to be on the apps, to be looking, to be trying to find people amidst all the things that go on in the world, all the world stress, all the life, the day to day. And I want to make sure that none of us get this confused with any sort of like codependency or attachment issue. This is just a simple human desire um, for some people that may like an intimate partner in whatever way that means. That could mean, intimate sexually and romantically, or not, or one of those, or none of those. That's a whole different topic, but anyways, that is another type. Another one that I feel like is not often discussed, but you kind of see it from people, is those that are really connecting with critters, animals. I think we all, those of us who really enjoy being around animals, can comment on the healing power of being around a little fuzzball, or not a fuzzball. I have two fuzzballs and a weird little aquarium, and I get something out of that situation too. Sustaining life, um, enjoying the non-judgmental support, and also the intuition of animals. I think many times they kind of pick up on moods and try to support you in their own little funky ways. Some less fun than others, but just a distraction, a healthy distraction nonetheless, most of the time. So that may be something. Um, I don't often suggest that people cure any type of loneliness with an animal if they feel like their executive functioning or otherwise is getting in the way. Um, but if they feel like that's not the case, or they have support, or the type of animal has minimal needs, I think that can be a great benefit to be a part of an animal's life and have a really nice give and take. Um, that's why there's a lot of therapy, like equine therapy and animal assisted therapy, is because there are boundaries in social communications that these animals can teach humans. So, right. So another type of loneliness that the article that I enjoy goes over is the no time for me loneliness. Good people surround you. Maybe you don't feel supported, but people are around you. They're sweet, they're nice. They greet you, whether it's at work, school, wherever. But the gap is not being quite bridged to a friendship, outings. You may even notice this with people that you are friends with. Sometimes it can even be close friends where they get married, they have a kid, they change a job, they move, they start taking on a lot of new different things, and you might feel, not saying that you are, but you may feel like an afterthought. We all know people get busy. I'm not going to go off on a whole rant and rampage about that because I think there's a balance between people putting in effort and the difference between low effort, medium effort, and high effort um, people. I understand most things are not meant to be malicious, right? Most people are not being absent from one's life due to any, you know, bad issue. Um, but time blurs and blinds us all in a way, right? So that can be very, very lonely where you feel like people are just within your grasp, but it's like ships passing in the night. Um, it can be very hard. Issues with trust, that type of loneliness, where you don't really quite seek to confide in them. You feel lonely in that, like, maybe you are doing things. Oh, we're out on the town, we go to the theme park, we meet up for coffee, but the depth that you are looking for, which everyone is different, and what type or need of depth that they have. Some people really like um, friends that focus on fun and silliness, right? And there are people that really want to sit and talk until all hours of the night and pontificate and wonder and dream together. There are sometimes even to another layer of this, just feeling like maybe there just isn't trust. These were fast friends and you didn't get a chance to build that foundation. And one of the last ones here is the desire for a situation that what we call in the neurodivergent community body doubling or parallel play. I'm going to lean more into parallel play on this one, which is basically two, traditionally, or more people who are in the same space in their whole own world. But there's a warmth and there's something kind of magic in the air of a support. So maybe one person is playing a video game, maybe the other person's studying or reading, um, doing remote work, whatever the case is, playing board game online with friends, but that presence there, right? Maybe you don't need all the airspace filled with chit chat and chatter, but the deep comfort that some can have in someone else's presence, usually at home. Just knowing that people are kind of living and existing around you. So before we move on to preferences and feelings, um, in my sessions with clients, I'll often talk about the concentric rings of people and peopling. Sometimes we have our very small inner circle. That's almost like this little atom. Then we have close friends. These are friends who you probably seek out or probably communication with theoretically, weekly, although there are some times those people that we love dearly and we don't talk to for extended periods, but we kind of share online spaces to a degree. Some people would not consider that close friends, and that's okay. This kind of, as I'm talking about these things, you might think about where people in your life go, and that's a very healthy practice. Then there's friends, right? Friends might be every month, couple months, we meet up, we grab lunch, we text here and there, wish each other well. We generally keep aware of each other's ins and outs of life, dating, new goals and values, achievements. But you're probably not, maybe venting to this person or keeping them up to date on the 24-hour kind of personal news cycle. Then there are acquaintances. A lot of times people will put like coworkers, although some people have coworkers on the friends or maybe even closer realm. It's just a matter of semantics, right? Acquaintances is basically people that you really are maybe engaging with as a matter of circumstance, right? Maybe they go to the same faith community as you. Maybe it's someone in admin at work that you see in passing, and you enjoy their company as situation allows. Um, Pretty much situations like that. Then going further out, which my little bubble is not letting me do so much, is what I call friendly strangers. Maybe this is the person who you often prepares your coffee, you're a barista, a server at a restaurant, um, the front office person, at a workplace. Basically, somebody that you kind of give that nod to. Could even be somebody you see on a biking path. Um, I know when I used to bike to my old workplace, there was people I always saw at the same time, and we kind of had our little, nod, hello. Um, People that could, depending on your preference, enrich your life in just a quick way of like human to human. I see you, you see me. But that's my preference. I don't like a lot of social stuff. So I appreciate the friendly strangers. Gives me a lot of joy. And then there's strangers, the world, all the unknown. So might be worth thinking about where you feel like there are deficits, because there is room for everyone. It's okay if you're considering moving people out to further rungs, or perhaps there's people you'd like to bring in a little bit closer. That can be some of the practical stuff we get into later. Is kind of calling people in, the people that you just really like, but haven't maybe quite had the brave moment to bring in. Um, and then what type, where you need things to be more heavy. Do you need a more heavy dose of inner circle? Do you need more close friends? Do you just like the idea of having more, like a lot of friends? And some that kind of cross the path between acquaintance and close? That's up to you. Like for me personally, I like an inner circle, some friends, and friendly strangers. That's pretty much it. I don't mind anyone else in between, but for me to meet my social need, I like to have those very precise relationships with, like, I would say 3 people where there's kind of a frequent contact and ability to just say stuff on the fly, jokes, memes, mutual understanding of deep kind of soul stuff. I like to see people in the daily routines of life, and I like to have people to check in and chat with every so often. That might sound horrendous to you, and that's okay. That's why we're here. All right. I know we've been on this slide for umpteen years. That's okay. We're gonna get there. All right. So just a couple things and ways that we can feel being isolated is unheard, unseen, and disconnected. Right? That's not good. That's not good for our creativity, inspiration, mental health. I know there's some of us out there who are like, ugh, peopling. Ugh. I do very much understand, unfortunately, the price we pay as a social species is we have to have a little bit of social something to fill up our cup. Your cup may be this big. I know people whose cups they eclipse all the cups of all the people I know. So what? That's just their needs. But none of us deserve to feel unheard, unseen, and disconnected, especially unseen. We all deserve to be seen. So let's get into that. So, why are we lonely? I've talked about a couple. Modern lifestyle changes. Now, without sounding too, you know, I went up the hill both ways to school kind of vibe. Um, in all truth, our lifestyle changes have impacted us. Um, a little factoid that I like to share is the building of homes. Homes many years ago were built for people to actually be able to see if you were home and have all the social spots close up front. So I'm kind of thinking, right, porch, big picture window, bay window, I think is no, one of them is called. I'm not a window expert or an architect. Regret to inform you. Uh, right. And most people did not cover a lot of these things with curtains, or they were actively sitting on their porch. So you could kind of look in and see where are people and have kind of a look into the kitchen and sitting area patio. Theoretically, where people would usually be. Now, homes typically have stuff towards the back, right? The back porch. Um, Curtains are drawn, blinds, smaller windows, tinted windows, also sometimes even just the structure of the house. So a lot of times you open in and it's like little hallway, and then we start having like our wings and our offshoots of the room. We tend to kind of hide away these days from people. I can go off, and I will not, about how I think there's been a culture shift where I think we all feel a little disconnected and wary of others, their belief systems, and what's going on. I am not saying that that is a completely wrong choice, but I do think it makes us feel a little more attached. If we kind of think of the lifestyle of like I order my food, it comes to my door, I say leave it at my door, um, dropping off of packages, the quick like opening the door, like very like raccoon, the raccoonery, where it's just like I got it, run. Like if you if you've ever seen a little raccoon just kind of run with their food, they're like gone. Um, of course, I'm not saying that we all need to work out of that and go strolling around the streets and go, hello, everyone, and welcome them into the fold. Um, but as somebody who has recently moved into a community that is very community, kind of rural-esque amidst the suburban area, um, there's a lot of people here that don't understand a lot of my shared beliefs or lifestyle. However, they're very dedicated to being helpful and kind, bringing chili, decorating, fixing things on the roof, sharing plants. So there can be a real beauty when we get to know people outside our door. But I think a lot of us are wary to be the person to go and sometimes to even be the person to receive. There's a lot of like look through the chain, very furtive, um, and that kind of continues the communication that we should all be lonely. Of course, increased digital interaction. I won't go over that too much, but um, a lot of times that can be an accommodation, which is awesome. But digital interaction, even with people I know who really are online a lot and enjoy it, really prefer to have those face-to-face conversations because digitally, we usually have a lot to ruminate on, like the last message that was sent, who left who on read, what did that mean? They edited it, they unsent the message. Ah, we wouldn't have that, right? We can't do all of that in person. We also get the addition of the nonverbals, which right, can be kind of limited unless somebody is really adept at using what's called tone tags and emojis. Um, if you're interested in tone tags, take a look. Remote work, living alone. Um, Most people used to live communally. That is not always accessible for everyone or preferred. I'm not saying that we need to open up our home, um, but finding a sense of balance. If your work is remote and you live alone, we got to find a way to add to that social cup because that's just oftentimes not going to be the safest. Even if it's just something tiny that we're doing. We usually need a little bit of something. Um, kind of mentioned earlier when talking about the way that homes were kind of situated, social and cultural shifts. There's a big erosion of community bonds. That's why I'm a big fan of when people do go out and try to be friendly and meet their neighbors, even if it's just while you're on a walk and you go, hey, I really love what you've done with the place, or like, I'd love to know more about that plant, or oh my gosh, is that a lemon tree? Um, or uh, even if somebody's in trouble, like, hey, are you okay? Do you need any help? What's going on? The bystander effect is known, usually for emergencies or difficult circumstances where we all just kind of go, well, who's going to do something about it? Kind of feel like we almost take on a version of that where we just see things and don't think it's our place and don't get involved when really we could. And we don't even know that it could have a benefit to us. Cultural expectations, a lot of personal circumstances, right? Sometimes we just don't always have actual time. There are people that are working back to back to back jobs and might just get a couple moments in passing. Mental health issues and challenges. Um, the brain can be a real heckler and basically shame you into taking literal behavioral actions to keep yourself at home. That is the power of the mind. And of course, physical health challenges. We have to identify that some people don't have the access and ability to really go out that much, hence sometimes beefing up the digital space. There can be a lot of beauty digitally, um, if that is, how it has to be. A more accessible world, of course, might open that up, but sometimes that's not always the case in what's in our home, our community, and our area. All right. So, what are the impacts of this decreased connection and isolation? Well, we already talked about loneliness. We can feel very depressed. And depressed because things can get really monotonous. Like I said, I'm saying this is not a like big extrovert. Um, but it can be very depressing when we do not have anything else but the echo chamber of this. And if this is not always up to snuff, it's not a good echo chamber to be in. Unless your echo chamber is like, you're valid, you're worth it, um, you're as good as anyone else. Even like some essence of neutrality. If that's not your echo chamber, might be a little suspect. So it'll keep us at home, very monotonous. It's very easy to get comfy and cozy in the darkness of depression. I've often described it as feeling kind of like an old ratty sock. It's your old ratty sock, but boy, is it really doing what it did when we first got it. No. And then, of course, anxiety. Um, I've certainly seen people develop into features of agoraphobia, if you're familiar with that, which is basically kind of difficulty and fear, phobia of leaving the home. I feel like I see it a little more these days. And that's because we've just lost mastery and skill sets to be able to deal with kind of the friendly stranger basic day to day, which things can be offshoots of. We can actually build friends. I made a friend that was always my checkout person, at a, you know, what was it, a Winn-Dixie? Like I didn't expect that. But that's life, right? So we kind of lose mastery over these skills, and then it just becomes kind of a spiraling loop. I can't do that. I shouldn't do that. What's the point of doing that? I don't get it. I don't really care to socialize anyways. No one will understand me. And that kind of links back up with the depression, and it kind of just becomes this little crappy infinity symbol. There are real physical health implications. I hate to share it, but I also know I need to share it. There's so many studies. I mean, a big issue for elderly folks We think, well, probably, stuff the heart, falls, immune system stuff. Yes, those are absolutely issues. However, loneliness and isolation is the biggest issue, and that can be such a big boost to elders, is when they do have a sense of community and camaraderie, even if it's not in every single checkbox list way that we talked about earlier, like getting seen and heard and friendly strangers, but to know that like we're in something where we have a role, we have a place. It is very important to have a place in this world and to feel like we do something that matters and people notice our absence, right? So physical health can actually go down, right? Where our immune system does not become as strong. Um, it's very increased risk of chronic illness. Again, we're a social species. I know a lot of us want to fight it. I get it. I've been the fighter of that myself. But sometimes you just gotta say, okay, social species. What social speciesing do we need to do today? I often joke, this is me with myself personally. I'm not saying that other people should say this about themselves. I don't feel like it's derogatory. I will often joke that I'm kind of like a plant, or like a dog or an animal. Like, I need my enrichment. Sometimes it's not that exciting. I work from home, so sometimes if my spouse is like, "Hey, you want to go to Home Depot?" I'm like, "Okay." What am I going to do at Home Depot? I don't have anything to do there. But friendly strangers existing. I've walked outside my home, get a little sunshine on the way. Why not? Why not? If it keeps all this crap at bay, it's worth trying. It's worth trying if we just go into it with an open mind. But if we go into it like, what's the point? Why? I don't get it. I don't get it. I don't get it. Screw it. I'm never doing it again. Back to that little crappy infinity symbol. And then the social consequences, which kind of I tapped on there in anxiety. Our relationships get strained. The more that we pull back, the more that we feel pulled back from, we tend to pull back. Most human beings think, well, you could reach out too. You could say sorry. You could ask me for a cup of tea. Okay, I do understand that. I really do. It's very normal and human to have the feeling of almost kind of righteous anger, like, why isn't anyone showing up for me? And what if somebody's feeling that same way about you? Like, are we just sitting there kind of going, better show up? Are we showing up? And I'm not saying that to like question to be like, am I being a good friend? Oh my God, I'm not. Like create anxiety, but question what we're asking for. Are we also providing in any way? Or are we just kind of sitting around hoping for mind reading? It's always it's always a failing game. If you feel a way, do it. Just rip the band-aid off. If we've been sitting around thinking about a friend and been like, well, they haven't said anything. Well, last time, oh, double text them. Blah, blah, blah. Sometimes it can be as simple as like, hey, I noticed I reached out recently. No problem. Hope you're well. I just want to share that, I saw this piece of art today and it just absolutely made me think of, your passion for things. Anyways, if you'd like to see it with me sometime, I'd love to show you. Or you want to grab some tea, in the next couple weeks? What do you think about? That's a magic trick. Offer a date. This, what do you think? Soon. Next few weeks. Sometimes it doesn't ever really happen. This is not about taking on a bunch of emotional labor and being the rock of all your friendship groups. but it is about starting the conversation. And it can be a very powerful thing to be like, huh, temperature read. I don't have a lot of reciprocal friends. These aren't people I want to boot, but maybe I need to have the conversation of, hey, right now in my life, I'm looking for a little more reciprocity and a little more physical time, or time in general. I've been noticing that that's not accessible right now. Are you thinking that there may be a time in the future that we could spend more time together? And then if you are feeling hurt, you can say, I've been feeling kind of hurt or forgotten. I know that wasn't your intention. So where do you think we can go from here? We want things to be efficient, guys. We only have so much time, right? On this earth, every day, spending it kind of hemming and hawing and should I text? Should I double text? Am I annoying? Am I doing this? We're not being authentic. And if we want to be seen and heard, we gotta stop pulling every punch. We just have to, or else we can't. And if people are like, well, how rude of you to ask me out for tea, don't you know I'm so busy? It may hurt, but that's efficient too. That may mean peace. Make room for someone else so that you can be seen and heard. A lot of times when we do a brave thing and it doesn't go the way that we would like, as a confirmation of, oh, I guess I deserve to be alone. Yep, everyone sucks. Guess I'll never have any friends. But what it needs to be is a inertia. Okay, well, that freaking sucked, and I need to spend some time processing that. And now what? I am released from this, or you have moved out a rung. Now what do I have time and space for? Things to think about. Okay. I always like to talk about, my peaks. So I know that I've spoken to an abundance of people in the adult industry that identify this way. So I thought, why not put a little spotlight right on it? So I'm not going to go too deep into what is neurodivergence. You can look at this nice little here. Um, as I've mentioned in a similar presentation, some people mean autism and ADHD when they say neurodivergence. Sometimes other people mean anything that is not something absent of these here in this circle and more. So things that we kind of face is sometimes those social interaction difficulties. Um, Unfortunately, society is built off of a lot of distraction. Small talk distraction, avoidance, hiding emotions with laughter and self-deprecation, mind reading, guessing, feeling kind of like there's tricks in the language. Um, so making sure that we find people that take us the way that we want to be taken. If we want to be taken at face value, we want people that are consent forward and ask, hey, do you have the bandwidth to hear about this today? Or, act more reciprocal, don't seem to read too much in between the lines, or are quick to judge or be like, oh, that was offensive, or oh my gosh, I can't believe you'd say something like that, or gosh, I must be nice. Um, we don't do very well. I mean, nobody does, but especially us neurodivergent folks, we don't do well in a land of passive aggressiveness and backhanded commentary. So we have to opt out of it. And if we notice it, it's okay to ask, I'm not sure what that meant. Could you explain? Help me understand? So we can have better bonds, but also if we realize that people are hiding behind their passive aggressiveness to never take accountability, again, we get to move on and find people that communicate in ways that are really accommodating for us. And some of us like to communicate less verbally. We like a lot of silence. People like to share through memes, through typing, through emojis, through voice memos. Um, I have a lot of friends that are non-speaking a lot of the time or semi-verbal, and right, that's chill for me. Other people would not want to cope with that. So we just have to find what we would prefer. We also have sensory stuff. Um, so that can be a thing, when we're dealing with people. Um, that's just generally a need that we need to have people in our life know about, so they're not making flippant comments like, oh, what's the big deal? Da, 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 da. Also, sometimes there's a lot of barriers, but there can be like employment barriers. So all of these things sometimes don't make us feel like we're the easiest friend to make. If somebody's like, well, why aren't you working? You seem fine. And it's like, well, I've been masking in front of you. Um, so no, this is like a safety behavior. We have to find the people that we don't need to do the safety behavior with. And I encourage people safe, when safe. That could be a big thing based off of visible marginalizations that are otherwise intersectionalities. Um, to practice just commanding respect, basically entering a room being like, why would I not be accepted and why would anybody have a problem with me? Because when we go, oh yeah, I don't know, I have ADHD and yeah, I'm sorry, I don't mean to talk so much, I guess it is annoying. God, I just interrupted you again. Man, I'm just not good at this social thing. What people are seeing is you don't accept yourself, and they might be more willing to kind of not interact very well. So we want to assume that we will be accepted because when people don't, we can give them a little, why would you not? Or somebody's like, oh, what do you need that for? Why are you using this assistive device? Why are you talking like that? Why are you asking so many questions? Oh, well, that's just what I do. That's how I've always been. Like, we reject it and send it back. Return to sender. Right? We don't go, oh, yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know. Will not help us be seen and heard. So I know a lot of us feel excluded and undervalued. And just little stats here. A lot of us are a part of this group. Okay. Ooh, lots of stuff. This is where, you might want to go screenshot, or bookmark. Well, I guess you can't bookmark on YouTube. You can bookmark video, but not where, I don't think. I'm not a YouTube expert. Building connections. These are some things that I really hope y'all can look into. I have some neurodivergent stuff in here. I have some, not specifically neurodivergent stuff here. But first, I think understanding our social needs. I've asked some questions and brought some topics up throughout that maybe you've been able to reflect on what you would like and prefer, as well as your communication styles. Some people really thrive in a small group. That's what that 1 to 2 plus question mark means. Are you like a one-on-one? Are you a small group? I like to sit at like a big table and have dinner and chat across and chat over here. Um, do you like to hang out on the phone? Maybe when you're doing an activity or maybe just to check in? Do you like video? Do you like in person? Or maybe due to certain needs, you use alternate assistive, communication or text. Maybe different strokes for different folks and different times for different things. Um, then there's some practical steps to connect, right? So we can join interest groups. I really, really, really encourage, at least if you have access or can give it a try, the 3 websites I always recommend to people, um, even if they're kind of fuddy-duddy in some ways, oh, whatever, is Facebook events, Eventbrite, That's event, and then BRITE, and then meetup.com. So these are really great for just typing in kind of a random keyword. Board games, witchy stuff, um, learning, nerdy, hiking, soccer, whatever. Type it in and see. So sometimes you'll be pleasantly surprised that something is there to at least give you a place to start. I mean, how nice, especially for any new social situation, to be able to connect on a thing that you could always come back to, right? It's not just like, oh, we met at Walmart. What do we talk about now? Well, probably not Walmart. But when you have an activity or a hobby, it's dynamic. It can always be brought back to in the discussion. How did you find out about it? What's your favorite part of it? How long have you been involved in this? Tell me more. Volunteering. I am a big fan of encouraging people to volunteer because I think there is something, like I said, to feel a sense of community, a role, a sense of purpose. If you're not feeling that in the workplace, you gotta feel it somewhere. It can be with a hobby or some community involvement, and it doesn't need to be a lot, and it doesn't need to be high pressure. You know your own needs, or maybe beginning to learn them. If you need to choose something that's low pressure, it's a place you could walk to or drive to or bike to in 5 minutes. And you're like, ugh, not feeling up to it today. Really can't. As long as you're fairly consistent, most places are not going to boot you because you're offering your time. So obviously, show up and do your due diligence, but we're all going to have our moments. You know. Utilizing technology mindfully. Please use block, mute, mute story, mute post, restrict. Use it as much as you need it. It is time that we stop thinking about who's going to know that I've stopped looking at their stories. We don't have time to perform all that. Again, it leaves us less space to deepen and get away from this loneliness. It is lonely to think about stuff like that. It is not lonely to say, frickin' forget it. If they have a problem, we'll figure it out and spend time with people that we want to spend time with or start the process of joining these things to do so. Active listening and empathy goes a long way. I always encourage people, I know that a lot of our brains are pinging along different thoughts when people are talking. Try to remember that those are sometimes not as important as what's being said to you right now. And it's okay if an answer comes to you a couple seconds later after somebody says something. It's okay to prioritize pausing, slowing, and thoughtful responses. Not everything has to be tennis. Inconsistency and effort, which has kind of been talking about, right? I'm cool with well, not low effort energetically, but like low frequency contact. I can have somebody hit me up a time or two a day and be like, hey, cool. Other people might be like, my phone is dry. So you do you. Get to know the love languages. I know sometimes people feel like they're a little hokey. Hey, you know what? It's a good little skill to know because we tend to speak in the one that we want. So sometimes if we're not speaking the right language to the person that wants something else, issues are there. And then we have the neurodivergent love languages, which I believe, at least they're held on the STEMpunks website. I don't know if that's where they're written from, but please take a look at them. All right, where to begin? Some really good inner work can start at just doing some like little quizzes. I'm a big fan of even, sometimes I'm not going to act like they're the most beautifully scientifically validated things in the universe. But I think it can be fun to do stuff like the Myers-Briggs or the MBTI, which is basically the, INTJ, INFJ, ESFP. I think I said that right. That drill. The Enneagram, people like to have a lot of fun with. Then of course there's kind of cutesy interest stuff like, the sorting hat quiz and stuff. That's just like even what's the one I'm thinking of? I'm not gonna call it the right thing, but the one for like D&D, where you see, are you like lawful good, chaotic evil. Those can be kind of fun just to see like how would you make decisions? What are you drawn to visually, emotionally? What pulls on your heartstrings? Like I said, it doesn't always have to be, I'm doing this psychological assessment. But there are some cool things out there. Finding some niche interest places. For instance, if you are like a D&D or Roll20, you can start finding games to play with people online or in person. Going back to the Facebook events, Eventbrite, Meetup, looking for peer support. There's a lot of incredible, incredible groups out there. There's Kiva Centers based in Boston. There's a one I found out in Seattle recently that they're like Peer Support Seattle or something. There's Peer Support Space based in Orlando, Florida. There's a lot of stuff in the UK. Um, really, if you type in peer support in your state or online, there's Hold Coalition. I can't remember exactly where they're based. I think they are US based though. A lot of cool spaces where you can learn about yourself on different topics and receive support that isn't non-carceral, therapy specific, but still a place for you to reflect. And just learning your needs, which we've been talking about throughout. All right. Well, thanks everyone for listening. I hope you got something out of this, and I certainly wish all of you a beautiful, happy holiday season. If the holidays are not really your thing, please try to make the day or days of your holiday or holidays nice. And I think that's just not preparing for it to be the crappiest day on earth. That doesn't mean that you have to go, wow, I love this holiday, I love this day. But just, be easy on yourself. Get some good food, maybe gather around, set up a comfort show, be intentional. Throwing in the towel and going, well, today sucks. Oops, I skipped my meds. Oops, I skipped my food. Oops, I didn't answer the text from somebody that I love. That's a choice. So please be easy and be well, and I'll see you around. Thanks for listening.